Hi everyone, hopefully you can see me and hear me. A while back I did a tour video of my studio so you could see my creative space. However, I shot that just a little while after Hurricane Irma, and everything was a mess down here, and I had also to do some taxes at that point, so I had a huge table all covered with my financial documents instead of instruments and whatever. So I'm going to do an update. It's now a couple of months after Hurricane Irma. I've got everything set up and working good in here, and let's take a look. So starting down the far end of the room is the big stadium rock size drum set, and it is still mothballed, unfortunately. I have not had a chance to tune these drums. When you have like 8 toms and a couple of snare drums and a couple of bass drums, tuning gets to be a massive project that you keep procrastinating and putting it off. So at some point I'll get this tuned up and I'll mic it all up. That's another huge project, getting it mic'd, setting the levels, getting the sound all good. So yeah, we'll do that another time. Moving on. This room, my main recording room here, is a big long space. It's like 50 feet long and 10 or 15 feet wide. And you'll notice there's no acoustic treatment. It still sounds pretty good, I think, and I always close mic sound sources anyway, so you can always use the close mic and put an electronic reverb on there and just sort of ignore the room sound if it didn't work for any particular recording. So this space works for me. I've never actually had a perfectly acoustically treated space in any of my studios over the years. I always just go with what I got and make it work. So whether it's a bedroom or a bathroom, wherever I have to record, I'll use it for what it does best. So let's look at some of the projects that are currently set up here. First of all, I've got all these acoustic instruments kind of hanging around right now, and you'll probably recognize this bell tree, cymbal tree over here from my fairly recent video I did, which was that kind of avant-garde thing where I was playing some live acoustic instruments and also had some live electronics happening. It was a very strange video, but whatever. I had fun making it. So, and my cat was in there. Remember that one? Okay, so these are all set up to actually be recorded properly. They are awaiting their turn. And there's all these other instruments awaiting their turn as well. Here's an LP tambourine and some castanets. Now I've got a tambourine on here too because these particular castanets, they make a real wobbly kind of sound that it's just not good to record. So I put this on here and I like it like that. They complement each other well and it masks the bad noise. So I'm going to be shooting some live videos where I'm playing all these instruments. I'll make a kind of a percussion rack setup with them, and we'll see what I come up with. Here's a hand drum. This is a Ramo Mondo snare. It's got these special skins that you can play it with your hands. It does snare sound and that sort of tribal sound. And that's a lot of fun. You can use it with a drum set, with sticks, or you can play it with your hands. I'm going to be playing it with my hands, obviously. I've got some hand wood blocks here. Again, no stick required. This is a Meinl super dry tambourine. It's got a great trashy sound. And this one is currently set up to record. I have a Canot Audio Devices multi-pattern large diaphragm condenser on it as its close mic, and it has a companion CAD mic, the exact same mic over here, way over here. This is picking up the room sound, and it worked great. And these are very affordable microphones. They're great. It'd be a great first mic for any recording enthusiast. And they got that cool chrome finish. They look like the Cylons from Battlestar Galactica. Yeah, you see that? Okay, anyway, moving on. There is this tambourine from Pearl, and it's got some moon gel on it, so this head isn't ringing like crazy. Some cowbells that you can play with your hand because I got these ball attachment things that you mount on the stand, and those work great. Again, some moon gel on there because these bells were ringing like crazy. Some bamboo wind chimes I got for $1, you know. Here's some other stuff, more tambourines. This is supposed to be like a drumstick. You can play your drums with it. But, you know, just makes a nice, bright, high tambourine sound. This is something most people have never seen before. This is a one-handed triangle. Okay, so all that stuff's going to get recorded. I'm going to be cutting loops with it. But I'm also going to make a fun live performance video. We'll see, you know, one of my improv videos. Now, when I'm recording all this stuff, I have this convenient set of preamps and compressors ready to go here. All I got to do is just plug in and I can start recording. So at the bottom here I have a pair of Universal Audio 710 Twinfinity mic pre's, and they are either transistor or tube signal paths, and they got this blend knob so you can blend between the two. Very versatile, nice sounding preamp. Above that are some Golden Age Project Pre-73 Deluxes. Those are the red ones there, and they are a kind of a copy of a Neve, I believe it's the 1073, is that what it's called? Yeah, anyway, those are very expensive, and I don't have any in my studio as a consequence. There's, above that, some Summit Audio TLA 50s, which are tube compressors, and I love those. I use them on everything. I own like 8 of those. Above that is an ART Pro VLA2 stereo tube optical compressor. And above that is a ART Pro MPA2 tube preamp. Both of those are very affordable and sound awesome. And above that is a Warm Audio Tone Beast, TB12 Tone Beast. Now, you'll notice there are 2 TB12s because I like to record things in stereo, but they're not stacked one on top of each other, and there's a reason for that. That is because they did not somehow isolate the power transformers effectively, and if you stack these one on top of the other, it induces this horrendous hum. So if you own any of these, just unrack them and make sure they're not stacked on top of one another, and that hum will go completely away and they sound perfect and beautiful. And there's lots of good vintage sounding settings on there. You can change out the transformers with just a knob twist. The operational amplifier, there's kind of a modern one and a vintage one, same with the capacitors in the signal chain, all that's switchable, and it's real awesome. So things go from there into the computer over here, but before we get to that, let me just show you a couple more things. So right now I have this guitar amp set up. This is an Ignator tube amp and pedal chain on the floor. Let's see, right now I have down here, the signal is it's running from a Rogue vintage compressor through a Rocktron Hush to kill a little bit of noise, and then it's going to the Boss DD7 digital delay, and it's all being powered by a Voodoo Labs Pedal Power 2 Plus power brick. Okay, I've got some Neumann, what are they, TLM 103s on here. One on the front, and one on the back. Phase reversed. Oh, and here's the cases for those CAD mics. They are GXL 3000 BPs. If anybody wants to buy a great mic, they're great. They're affordable. Way more affordable than those Neumanns, let me tell you. So I have some loops that I've been cutting with my guitar, and you'll hear one of those in a second. There's the guitar I'm using. It's a G&L Tele. G&L is the company that I guess Leo Fender started after he left Fender. I don't know. My brother knows all that history. I don't know all the history. But let me also briefly show you this. This is my live rig, and we will discuss this in another video, but I use this double neck Chinese bass and 6-string guitar, and there's synths and amps, and it's all mic'd up and ready to run into my computer live. And this second preamp stack of ART Pro MPA2s is all my live rig. So also over there is the Songwriter's Bunker. I also have addressed that in other videos and postings, so you can look back on my wall and you'll see things about that. Okay, so let's go over here. Let's listen. First of all, here's the guitar loop, the latest one I'm editing from that same exact setup over there. If I move the camera to the speaker, it'll probably sound better. So, again, that's what's coming out of this amp and being captured by those two microphones. And I can mix the microphones freely back and forth and change it all. And so those loop sets will be cut up and put in my loop library, seamless loops, and I will have them for future use in songs. All the heavy recording work already done. I can just be creative and puzzle the pieces together, all the different loops, and it's a much more spontaneous way for me to write, I find, because I don't have to concentrate on all of the technical aspect of recording. I can just be creative. Also here at my computer, you will note there is a keyboard sitting on top of these studio reference monitors, and that makes a pretty good keyboard stand. And that keyboard is only there. It's just a controller. It doesn't make any sounds on its own. It's just there. I'll use it with a soft synth in the computer software to figure out the key signature of the guitar loops and whatever I've recorded, because I'm not really a music theory guy. I pretty much just improvise everything I play, and I don't know what key I'm recording in. I don't know what chords I'm using. I just kind of do it from my gut, and then I have to go in later and figure out what the key is. So that's why that keyboard is sitting there. Now let's take a look to the left here. On the bottom I have the power amp, which is an Alesis RA100, and that is talking to the Tannoy studio reference monitors. It's powering them. I've had that set up for years and years and years, and it works great. Over here, I have what I call my mastering rack. Now, it's not mastering like you'd master a song. This is really mastering for my loops, in a way. So what I will do is I will run loops out of the DAW. Oh, and I should mention that the audio interface box I'm using, which is behind the computer right now, is this massively powerful Antelope Audio Orion 32. This thing can do 32 channels in and out simultaneously through these big snakes that are running off the back of it. Let's see if I can get them in the shot. There they are. Each of those is a 8-channel snake. I don't even have it fully loaded right now. You can add more. I'm running this at 24-bit, 192 kilohertz, and because I'm using a laptop, it only does 24 channels. But that's way more than I need. If I was doing full bands again, recording them as I used to in my commercial studio days, I would need all those channels because I sometimes have up to 20 mics on a drum kit. But since I'm just recording by myself, I rarely use more than 4 channels simultaneously going in. I'll have a close mic and a room mic. Possibly those will be in stereo, so, whatever. Okay, getting back to this, what we've got here is a pair of Radial Engineering X-Amp reampers, active reampers, and those are so I can run loops out of the computer and into a guitar equipment chain, like the pedals. You can then run it out an amp, and you can mic the amp, and so you can send like a vocal line out of a guitar amp to hear what that sounds like. And so that's really cool, and I have 2 of them so I can do it in stereo, although I only have 1 amp and cabinet that I can use right now. I'm maybe going to add in the future an orange amplification micro dark, a pair of those, so then I can send 1 channel to each micro dark. Right now, if I want to use stereo, I've got some stereo guitar pedals I can use, and then I'll DI them on the way back in and just skip the amp. So you can run things through pedals and then right back into your computer, use them as effects. So you need a reamper on the front end to convert from your computer's line level balance signal down to an unbalanced signal to go into the guitar equipment. And on the other end, you need to DI it to get it back to line level and balanced. And I don't have any DI boxes here, but you will see that on all of these high-end preamps, there is a convenient little DI input, 1/4 inch unbalanced DI, and they're usually switchable. And you can switch them into the signal path. Here's one on the ART, and there's one on the Golden Age project. So you don't need a DI box if you're using discrete preamps like that, because you already got one built in. And a lot of audio interface boxes have DIs now, so you can just run your guitar or bass right in for tracking. Okay, moving on. Down the chain here we have a BBE Sonic Maximizer and an Aural Exciter Type C from Aphex. Those basically do the exact same thing, but they sound different. I particularly like the low end on the BBE better than the big bottom channel on the Aphex Aural Exciter Type C. Both of those have been studio staples forever, and most people will have a software simulation or something like that. I like the real analog balanced, boxes. Below that is a synthesizer. This is extremely powerful, one of the most powerful digital synths ever made. It's a Roland Integra 7. I highly recommend them. You can make any sound with that. They're just killer. That is only in this stack because it's convenient for me I can play it using this keyboard to play tracks, to record loops. And I also use it as a headphone amp when I'm tracking guitars or something. I've got a stereo pair coming out of the audio interface. One's going to the speakers, which I switch on and off with the RA100, but the other's going in here so that I have headphones and can record. And it's just a convenient way for me to do it because there's no headphone amp on the Antelope 32, so I use this. Down below that is, and one other thing about recording with headphones, get yourself a pair of these. These are Vic Firth drum isolation headphones. They were designed by Rod Morgenstein from the Dixie Dregs, and they're very affordable, and they're pretty comfortable. They're a little tight on your head. You feel like you're kind of being squeezed in a vice, but that's important to keep them isolated too. So what they do is they knock the signal level way down so you can play drums without destroying your ears. But the fact that they're kind of like those EPA hearing protectors that you see the guys at the airport who waving in the planes, they protect your ears a lot, and as a consequence, sound doesn't get into them, but it also doesn't go out of them. So when you're close miking a vocalist, you put a pair of those on, and you'll no longer get even a trace of bleed from the vocal mic, from the headphones into the vocal mic. So they're great. I use them every time I'm tracking. Now, getting back to this, the last box here on the bottom is a Behringer Tube Ultra Effects. It is kind of just like the BBE or the Aphex Aural Exciter, except that in addition to the excitement section, which can either be an enhancer or an exciter. In other words, it's either like an EQ boost of the highs, or it's actually adding new harmonics like an Aural Exciter. That is fully continuously variable. Those can be switched in and out. The bass one can be switched in and out. The treble one can be switched in and out. You've also got a stereo widening circuit like the Behringer Edison, which I used to own one of those, and it's a great thing. But the icing on the cake here is these last two sets of knobs and VU meters are real tubes so that you can add a little tube warmth, and you can ignore all the rest of it and just run your signal through this box just for the tube warming. So it's a nifty thing. So I will send a loop out of here, like how about a drum loop, for example, that's submixed and everything. It's the full kit, but it's just not got enough life to it for some reason. I can run it through here and boost the highs and the lows and then run it back in, and it'll sound great. So that's my little mastering rack. On this side, I have an effects rack. I have a Lexicon reverb unit down here, which I've had for many years, and I love that one. It's the MPX1. Then I've got a pair of Behringer Virtualizer 3Ds, which I'm using with my analog equipment, and I've got a TC Electronic M350, which I like because there's a control knob for everything. So you just spin the knob, and it's like, that's so much better than paging through digital screens. So the same deal, I've got those on a set of outputs from the Antelope Audio Orion 32 here, on one of those snakes, and they're coming out, and they're running over to here, so I can run my audio through the effects and back into the computer, which, oh, I gotta put the camera down for a second because the computer won't open with one hand. Okay, sorry about that. Oh, now it wants my password because we're gonna need the computer again. There, now you can see the screen again. I don't want you to know my password, do I? Okay, so this also is where I'm going to be building my analog modular rig over here. This Ableton Push has nothing to do with that. That's for working with Ableton Live, that DAW. I usually use Sonic Foundry Acid, which is now Acid Pro 7, and it went from Sonic Foundry to Sony to a company called Magix. And I'm really hoping they update the software and bring out a new version. So right now I've got my Arturia Microbrute, pure analog over here, and it is being controlled by an Arturia BeatStep Pro step sequencer. And it is running through the Behringer Virtualizer 3D effects rack. And I made that BeatStep Pro unboxing video just a few days ago, and if you watched that, you saw I really didn't know how to use it, but now I do. And let me play you the first drum loop I have recorded with it, and it is now in my loop library. I just got to solo those tracks, and this is what that sounds like. So that was recorded using the BeatStep Pro and a drum rack out of Ableton Live, and I ended up with a really kind of different sounding drum beat. I like it though. So that's the end of this video. The only thing else to do is to just play you out with, this will prove that I've learned to use this thing a little bit better. This is the first loop I'm going to be cutting using the melodic sequencer in the BeatStep Pro and the Arturia Microbrute, and I'm calling this Enchanted Forest, and this is what it sounds like. Bye!